Okay, let's go.
Uh, okay, so uh, I have a running example for us, and we will be building temporal. I like to call it axis on the data. We will start with with the atemporal model, which is it just knows the current states of things and no no notion of the past or the future. Uh, and this is mostly what you see, I think, in most tables on our applications I did work. And there are some tables or relations, if you want to be pedantic, with one one axis of time. But okay, what's the example? It's a very simple relationship between an employee and a payslip, which is the Brazilian. Uh, I'm not sure everyone understand what is a payslip. Feel free to ask, or even if I get the name wrong, because
Yeah, it is. That's right.
I don't work for
Yeah, before we go
unfortunately.
on, could you tell us like the title? What's the title of we're gonna study here together?
Bitemporal design, let's say.
Bitemporal design. Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
Go on.
And so what I'm modeling here, we have uh, a relation to store employee data. In this case, just the social security number and the name, and what is his payment for uh, the current month, let's say. And you can see there is no notion of time here. Even for me to say the payslip is it would imply some sort of time, right? But it has none here. Uh, that would be the example. Okay, we will we will use. I believe I have a yeah here this sec. Uh, what did it? What's wrong here? Group. I think this group thing may be wrong. No. Oh yeah, I know what's wrong.
Wow, is that a preview of a diagram in
Yes.
Emacs?
Mhm.
Crazy.
Actually, it's just opening an image right on PlentyML.
Yeah.
Yeah, but is
Uh,
that like being generated as he types things there?
no, no. I'm
Yeah.
running
Yeah.
a command that does it via
Oh,
shell.
okay,
Some,
okay, okay. That's it's still cool.
yeah, yeah. I use this a lot actually to work and this is part
Wow.
of my workflow. I
Imagine,
like
Mageta, drawing a diagram, man.
A
Wow.
UML diagram. Nah, I'm not sure I want that.
no you may no UML, but
I have a book.
a lot of sequence and other kinds.
I don't have the UML book.
Yeah,
I
that's a
know I can zoom here, but I don't remember the
Control
key.
X plus.
Oh, but you zoom in the image, right? That's the problem.
Oh, zoom in the image. I have no idea.
Okay,
Ah,
I
it's
think
plus as
it's
well.
okay right now. Can you read it?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
By the way,
So,
I heard a WhatsApp if you want to close something.
oh yeah.
No?
I,
Okay. Because you open your window there.
mm,
I can cut this. That's fine.
Okay.
Look how much love I have for GM. I'm gonna open the video editor, man. Like how crazy.
mhm.
Mageta knows I hate to do that.
Yes.
So here's the trick part. That's not an image. That's you have to zoom like the font size thing.
Mm.
But okay, that's not a part of the talk. And so here's the problem I want to tackle. Let's say we have Alice, our HR representative, which does the payroll from our employees, and she uses set system. Um, okay, so what's the flow? We compute. It's very simple. Compute the payroll. It's it generates some sort of report. And maybe she imports into the bank system and does the payments, right? And then you notify the employees that their pay slip is ready and this stuff. So she did it in T1, which is, let's say, discrete time time period,
A
I
time
guess.
window, maybe?
Time window, yeah. Let's say it's for us January, let's say. And then the next month, she does it again. Okay, the three steps. But Bob was supposed to get a raise at this time frame, and it was not computed before generating the payroll. Then he asked her, "What about my pay raise?" And she sees it's wrong. It's supposed to be with the raise. Then she edits the file with Bob's file, right? And compute the new payslip and do the transfer from the rest of the value, right? Because she did it with the old payment value. And then send again the payslip for Bob. This is the problem, the not the problem, the use case we want to model, let's say. Not a use case, I think it's I don't know what to call
Yeah,
this.
this is an example of a situation.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, situation. And that happens a lot actually, having to fix things in the past. And and so there is this concept I'm not sure you guys are familiar with that database store facts as we know it, uh, and it can the fact of course won't change because it's the fact is a fact, but uh, your understanding can change. Let's say you thought something in actually you learned later that's not that thing. You need to quote unquote rewrite the past. This
Yeah,
is
that makes
something
sense.
this is something that bitemporal tables will solve for you. It can do it without losing information,
Awesome.
which is basically what auditing needs, right? Uh, you don't you have everything that happens and you can explain. Let's say I have some questions that I will make about this flow, and you will see what I mean. So the first uh, model, using the first model, we can have here. Let's see, how can I zoom in on this sheet? Sorry.
Okay, so 3 extra clicks and 2 extra windows to
Man, I
change the
look at
font
this and I
size.
think that's
I
why I like.
believe there is a yes, it's
Oh, okay,
here.
so there is a shortcut, at least that.
Yeah. It's a Eclipse based. I know it has,
It,
but
it
not.
is clearly Eclipse based, like it's immediate.
Yeah. So we have our. Oh, that's the wrong file. This is the right file. The a temporal one. So it's one for one what I showed before, the tables, right? Employee and payslip. Of course, this is oversimplification, right? I just put the gross pay here, just so we have some state to keep in the payslip. And what's important to be noted here, the the let me the link between these two tables is the social security number from the employee, right? And just this. So what this means, you can't have more than one payslip per employee, and as such, you won't have the last payslip you generated. Is this clear for everyone?
Wait, can you repeat the last part? So what do you mean you cannot have the last pay slip?
No, no, you can only have the last. You
Oh, you
can't
can
have.
only no, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So Bob's manifests itself into existence for some reason. Oh, yeah, he already exists. Let me start over. Bro, why I need to use my mouse? That's painful. So Bob exists now. And we can generate his payslip for the first time frame. And if we are about to generate it in PDF or other format, we will basically do a select, right? And probably we create system. Uh, and here it is. His gross pay is $1,000 or whatever. And then comes the time for the second time the payslip is being generated that it's actually wrong, right? What we have to do, update the payslip, the gross pay, in this case, right? In this model. And then now, okay, it's 200, everyone's happy. Uh, this, uh, these are a couple questions we could ask, and this database will not be able to answer. For instance, what was Bob paid before the raise? I can't know that because I only have the last payslip. When was the raise? I can't know. And that would be some sort of auditing question. Let's say it's cross-referencing your government reports versus bank reports and as such. As such, it could be asked, why did Bob receive two transfers at that time of the raise? And the system won't be able to tell why. We can't know. Only if
Those are
the
great
persons,
questions.
only if the persons that did it took note at some other
Yep.
medium. And then, okay, that's the simplest model, right? No temporal axis. We can add a single axis, and it can have can come in two flavors. Uh, what we call valid time or system time. I'm doing right now in this example this valid time one, not the system. Uh, at at the end of this this file, I will try to explain what is system time. It's a little bit simpler, in my opinion. So, what's the difference between uh, the two, right? Now we have the periods in the payslip relation. So now we record when this uh, payslip was generated or due, whatever the business implication is, right? Uh, and this is valid time in some sense. It does not need, in my opinion, not sure it is like this. It's an opinion not very much researched. I don't think it needs to be a time range or something closed, right? It could be just a single date. And the interpretation of this is it, it, it is what makes the valid time, the
Uh,
attributes.
I think on Pascal's book, he calls the type itself and the representation of the type, right? He makes that distinction. So if it works, it behaves the same way as another type. The representation really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think that makes sense because what Magenta is talking about is basically how do you represent the period, right? It could be a
Yeah.
close range, or it can be only the specific moment in time.
A-
I'm going
And I would
further.
say that goes
There
deeper.
there is this concept of valid time. It is
Yes.
generally related to time, but it can be an int for this case.
And
Uh,
just one thing here that I think is important. That means that a value by itself has no meaning. It just has a meaning if it has some interpretation on it, right?
yeah.
In the case of an
So
integer, right?
in the case of anything, like
No, yeah,
just data
yeah,
loosely, like it doesn't mean anything.
No, no, no. I'm
Like
not
you
talking
can
about
have a
that.
triplet.
No, I'm not talking about that. But let's suppose that the integer is the amount of hours that you're gonna add from the 1st of January 2024.
Yes,
So
if
in
it's
that
just
case, the integer is useless without the information of the 1st of
without the
January.
knowledge that it is representing
Yes,
that, yeah,
but then
exactly.
the same thing is true if you put the date, because if it's the
Yes,
date, you ask which time
yes,
zone.
that's my
yeah,
point.
exactly.
So the type is dissociated from the function, but the value, which is the instantiation of a type,
Yes,
is related to the interpretation that
yes,
they can
exactly.
do.
And I want to point out that the primary key got an upgrade, which is
Yep,
interesting.
yep. That's a good point. And that is now we have knowledge of the past. We can have some sort of knowledge. It's not complete yet. It's but we have something, right? Oh, that's one of the points I made before, right? You could only have a single payslip per employee at any time. Now we can have one payslip per employee per period. So let's say this is something monthly, right? Any month can have a payslip for the employee. Uh, in that sense, we can know, for instance, the what was his pay before the raise, which was one of the questions we could not answer before. And this is quite simple yet, right? That's something you see commonly on systems, this kind of uh, representation
When you don't see
and
JSON there, right? That's when you mean.
modeling, let's say. So Bob's here.
The way you phrased it made me notice that um, a single temporal thing, and I'll call that an entity. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I might be wrong on the naming, so sorry about that. This way you get like by it has two dimensions, right? The entity and the time it is on.
Yeah, correct.
And a bitemporal thing will have it will be three-dimensional in the sense.
Yeah,
I didn't
I
notice
like
that up until now. Pretty cool.
that's why I like to use the term axis for time.
Cool.
In
Nice.
my head, I see tipo, I see it
It's not because Nazi then. I
uh,
was worried for a
clear.
second there.
Yeah, and okay, so Bob's here. We do the payslip for the first period for Bob, and then his report for the first month. Okay, pretty much like before. Now comes the second period, and we did not know, or the system did not know yet about his pay raise. So it's generated with 1,000 only. And then it's exported to him, he complains, and now we have to update the payslip for the second period. And okay, updated, and that's pretty much what you see too in any system. And now it's everything right. Bob is happy, and we might need to answer the same questions as before. So to do that, I will generate some more data just to make it, let's say, obvious. The I think I will generate. Oh, okay, that one and that one. And what this did is, just so you know the the data here, right? It's from -10 to 10, the periods. And it's all for Bob. And I basically I generated the payslips
Yeah, so this
for
is the
the
history of the
past.
payslips, right?
Yeah, not only the history. Let's say we are here at the 0 time. It it would mean that there is future too.
Oh, okay, okay, that makes sense. If you're at 0, that makes sense.
Um, so I generated this data, and we could do a summary of uh, his payment gross pay changes, right? So we know that as far as we can tell, his gross pay was 1,000, and at period 2, it was raised to 2,000. Okay,
I have a question.
sure.
So is this marking the first instance in which he got 2000?
Yeah,
That
exactly.
makes sense.
Exactly. And we still can't answer this question, why Bob received two transfers. And I want you to think about it. Why can't you? Why can't we answer this one yet?
I have an answer.
Go for it.
Uh, we can't answer that because although we know when his payment changed, we don't know when we learned that his payment changed.
Exactly. And that's because we keep only a single. We don't we don't keep track of changes to the data. We are just keeping track of the state, our current state of the world, right?
Wait, I have a question.
Go.
So what Marinho said implies to me, because he said that we don't know when that decision, that switched.
Yeah.
So are we talking about rewriting history now?
That's not rewriting history. That's rewriting our understanding of history.
Yes, yes. So we're gonna go into the past, and you're gonna mark it down when the decision of the raise was made. Is that what we're gonna do?
Yeah, that's what we did actually, but we don't have any record, anywhere uh, recorded that this happened.
Yes,
We
yes. We're
did it.
gonna record that the
Yeah,
moment in which the decision was made.
yeah,
Okay,
and
so
that's basically the job from for system time. It is what time, and this time axis is related to the system understanding of time. So at what point in time the system did something, and the system being the database system, for instance,
mm-hmm,
you could call the like the Postgres now, for instance,
mm-hmm.
wall clock, right? And its sole purpose is to do the this kind of recording of actions, let's say, and uh,
Okay, so the system itself is gonna record when the decision was made for us, so we don't have to go ourselves in there and change it. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, yeah, that's something that it's so outside the business that it's so mechanical that you can just create some triggers or turn some
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
knobs in,
exactly what I thought. Why not make a
and
trigger?
yeah, and it's I did it with a trigger here, but there is some RDBMSs that do it natively, so you don't
Wow,
need to write a trigger.
that's
And
SQL
crazy.
Server does.
what?
SQL Server?
Yeah, but
Yeah, yeah,
it
that's
doesn't do the valid time. It's just the transaction time.
yeah.
Ah,
That
okay.
that's the other name for system time.
Marinho, you want
Transaction.
to say something? You want to say something?
yeah. The way I like to think about it, and I have some experience with this stuff from messing with Datomic. The way I like to think about it is the system time or the transaction time models. When did we learn about a fact? And the valid time,
Quer
which
saber
is
o que
what we just
nerd?
what we just modeled, is when the fact actually happened, which is a different thing
Yeah, when we
from when we
learn
learned
and when
about
it
it.
happened. Those are two different questions.
Yeah, yeah,
Actually, it really depends on the context because I can ask when it happened. When did it happen? What? What did it happen? When that we learn or the the
yeah, yeah,
transaction was done? Those are two
yeah,
different timings. That's the point.
yeah. And that's why we can't answer this, because that's a question about what's the state of the world that led us to generate two transfers.
Yes.
So implicitly, I'm asking what's the state of the table at system time two,
Yes. Pretty much.
and a brief history from that point onward, right? To understand the whole deal. And that's the a single temporal axis, in this case with the valid time. Uh, and then we have a bunch of scripts here to model a bitemporal table. I won't go over the whole script, that's a lot of nonsense. So here is
Ah,
Let's
you're
the
give you a
acquiring
taste of it,
Mageta's
man.
terminology, man. That's I don't know if that's a good thing or
Or
a
maybe
bad
I got
thing.
Gian's terminology. Who
I
knows?
doubt it. I really doubt it.
so this is actually part of a work in progress I'm making as a library or extension or something like that. And this is doing some configuration, saying that the valid time is called valid periods. It is of type integer, I'm not using a date here, and the transaction time is system period or system time, right? This is what is called when on the table itself, on the relation. And there is some. Oh yeah,
So I have a question.
go for it.
So valid period is the same single temporal thing that we were doing before, and the
No,
system period is what adding the other direction.
yeah, yeah. If I understood your question, this valid period is the equivalent of period here,
Yes.
but the type is not, right? It's time range I'm using.
Oh, okay,
Mm.
okay, okay. But that's the implementation details. That's what Mageta said.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
Okay, and the
And here,
system period is doing the when we learn the thing.
yeah, this,
Okay, cool.
and the new table is okay. The old old stuff here again, and the new is this column, which has a spatial type called range. In this case of type of ints, so the representation is something like, let's say I want to do a int range from uh, -5 to 9. I can do this, which is start uh, inclusive, right? The square bracket is means inclusive, and goes to 10 exclusive. So it will not include 10 in the range. Go If I want to go with the square bracket here, it would be 9 to go to 9, right? The
So
equivalent.
it has
Then
like an embedded regex library.
It's not regex. It's This is the syntax of a range. They did it like
Go
this is
Mageta.
the representation of a
so
range.
it's open like for example, when you have the latest, just one thing to highlight here, I think, is that if you have a thing that is still known, right? You don't end the period because that's still like the true statement, right, about reality. So in the case like you could have like 10 omitted, right? So it would be basically from 5 and beyond, it's believed that this is true. And
Yeah.
then when it's finally like the thing gets moved somewhere, I don't know if Jen will say about that. Then that would close, and then the period like ends in that point. You see?
Oh, so you can make in def like the interval, the range only has a starting point. It doesn't have an end. You can do that.
Yeah, because you don't know when that thing is gonna be falsified, right? Or if the thing is
Wow.
falsified at all.
I wonder
So
how the heck they deserialize that.
that's
I think
I mean
it's
that's just a representation of the type,
yeah,
right?
it's a lot less interesting than it sounds, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
No, no,
probably.
no, no. It is interesting because I'm imagining if I want to put represent serialize infinite because it starts from -5 and goes beyond imagination, and that's what we believe it's true because it's still true right now. Which amount, which set of bits I'm gonna use to write that down?
I
Oh,
know.
nothing. It's just a string, man.
Yeah.
Oh, you
It's
It's
just a
just put the
tuple.
string literally?
It's just a tuple with a
Ah, okay, I see.
yeah.
with a value and a optional value, and
o-
that's
o-
it.
Okay, I
it,
see. I see. Yeah,
it's
it's
like
more boring than I thought.
yeah, yeah. If you have an infinite value for the type, it can do it. Can put You can write infinite and negative infinite or whatever.
Ah, okay, I
For the
didn't know that.
case of ints, which don't have, they are bounded, right? You keep it empty, and it's the equivalent of null.
Ah,
But
okay, okay. So
if you
it
have,
got cursed at some point. Cool.
Yes.
if,
A
if
whole
we
library.
do like this, we can do with, I don't remember the exact time.
No, but I think I got the idea. Even if you don't remember, I think I got it.
TS is the range, I think it is.
Oh,
No?
that's a weird name, but that's okay.
Where is
30.
the fucking here?
Oh, it has in Postgres. I was not aware of that at all.
Yeah, it's native to Proto. TS TZ range. Did I write it
Okay, but
wrong?
they only does what Magetta said. They just write it down the strings. Okay.
I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that's one way to do it, right?
Well,
It's
that's kind
not
of
as
boring, man.
it's not like you're gonna generate an infinite lazy sequence like you
No,
don't
yeah,
need
but
that.
then the question is, what would be the bits that will say infinite? Like that's the question.
Oh,
Oh,
none.
that's
What Lemos, what are the bits that represent nothing in a maybe? That's your answer, basically.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's fair.
So
That's fair. Let's go.
this
Let's go
is
one.
this is the idea of a range in Postgres, and it has some predefined types, right? You can do your own. You can extend, for instance, if you have a custom type that can be a range, use it in a
Okay, I
range.
have a question.
Well,
Maybe it's a
okay.
tricky question. What is the benefit of having ranges if you can have put the range in a constraint?
Mm,
What? What?
Like, let's say, oh no, but can you save a field of a table as a range? I think that's what we are doing there, right?
Yeah.
it's saved as a range. It is the
Oh, it's
type.
because you want to save the range, like the limits, the bounds. I was
Yeah.
thinking if you have a
Uh,
constraint,
yeah.
just save the number.
The point there is that he's using those. He's making constraints, right? So if you see the exclude there.
I will get to it.
Yeah, but
Instead.
that's ahead of time.
So
No, but that makes sense. Okay,
there
go on.
is, I don't think there is a clear benefit. Let's say we could use uh, two attributes
No,
like
but that's the trade-off. Or you pick
like
two for the upper
R.
bound and lower bound, and you put a constraint on those, or you save the range itself, and then you
Yeah,
have only one field for it.
it will do some constraining already. I think.
Oh, it comes as a bonus. Okay, I didn't know that.
I'm not sure. Uh, well, we could try
No, no,
to
no. I don't
do.
want to. I don't want to mess around with that because maybe that's outside of your talk. Let's continue.
Yeah, it's a bit outside, but mm, okay. If you remember later, we can investigate. Um and this is the interesting bit here. I'm doing the whole schema is bitemporal in this case. You don't need to do it, but it's nice to do it. It makes sense because if you think about it, everything has a valid time. Not in, I mean, everything, even in the real world, is at some point, let's say, uh, uh, X, Y, and Z, right? At some time. It's not at all times at that point. Everything, when you're referring to something, has a time bound to it. I mean, well, that's why I think the whole schema having a valid time is cool. It gets closer to a real model, let's say. So the primary key now, before it was for the employee, right? It was just the social security number, but now it's the valid period too, which means that at any given time, this SSN should only appear once. Did you guys grasp this sentence?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. And to make sure that this happens, because Yeah, strictly speaking, a primary key would just do the constraint checking with the equals,
Yes.
right? It could overlap, which means we could have a range from 1 to 4 and another range from 2 to 5, and this would actually overlap and
Yes.
would not
Yes.
be a valid state because we have potentially two states from time 2 to 4 for that SSM. To avoid this, we can use this long as statement, which uses a GIST index, which I could not explain for you what it is
That's
exactly.
fine.
Uh, that's probably something cool to bring here to talk about index. There's a lot of cool stuff. Uh, and I'm saying here is the following. Uh, don't let the user insert uh, values on this table where using the comparison equals for SSN and this operator for valid period. If it returns true, this comparison with any row, it will be blocked. The Postgres will not insert it.
That would be the default way, right? With equals and end for the range. I think that would be the default way that we would check, no?
No, the default is equals and equals.
Oh, equals equals.
Yeah, that's
Interesting.
what the primary key do.
Okay.
It, it checks with equality. But for the valid period, we can do equality, only equality. We must do the overlap check.
Oh, okay. So the end
And
is an overlap. Cool.
yeah, that's an operator for ranges.
I am a
And
little bit surprised that it doesn't come out of the box with that for ranges.
It doesn't come what?
Like, if I put a range in a primary key slot, why do I
Mhm.
have to put the overlapping myself?
yeah, I don't know
It will
what.
just compare. Uh,
I mean,
so
you might want to let it have
No, yeah,
overlap. But
flexibility, I
not.
understand that. But I'm thinking, I'm making the range the primary key.
Yeah, but it should be
the,
here, right? Like a low overlaps or
yeah,
something like that.
that's just checking unicity of a tuple, right? That's not checking overlapping.
No, yes,
So you can
no,
have
I
one to
understand that it's.
two.
I understand why we need the exclude lines. I'm fine with that. I'm just saying that I'm a little bit surprised that when they were developing this feature, they didn't think that if you are making a range a part of the primary key, you probably want to add automatic overlapping
Oh, by
and
the
I
way,
check.
I
CGDate on the SQL standard, there's a definition for that, but they didn't implement. So CGDate spends a whole page on his book explaining, oh, why this operator is important and why it blah 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 should be on any relational database, and then they don't have it. Like,
my my guess my guess is that this is some ANSI bullshit. The primary key must be equals. It's not
yeah,
like that.
Legacy things. Okay.
I don't think maybe it's legacy, but maybe it's the guys from the ANSI standard that don't value it.
Marinho,
It
you
being
want to say
overlap.
something? You want to say something?
Um, yes, the overlaps check would be preferable, but it's also a special case. Like
Yeah,
when you have a primary key of this particular type, use this operator, and for everything else, use equals.
Yes,
That's
but it's Postgres. They have like 50 years doing this. Like,
no 30, but
okay,
no,
30 years doing this. Doesn't matter.
it doesn't make it weaker.
Yeah, so like I understand that it's a particular corner case in which you're making a range of primary key. But if you have 30 years to do it, why not add the automatic overlapping?
I think it's to not break the standard. to be honest.
Okay, okay, I
It,
believe you. I believe you. Let's go on.
uh, and that's this is optional in general, but I opted to make it required with my lib, and that's tracking. Let's say, how can I do a fast example? We can have roles, let's say for the SSN and name that are like this: one, one, and the time is one. And then we have the same record for the time two, and the same record for the time three, right? It's only changing the time aspect of this entity. And what this constraint does is disallowing this to happen in the physical table, let's say.
Okay, so you're basically only allowing when you change more than one thing at a time?
No, I'm on. Can you can insert it, but you cannot keep it as two records that only change the valid time from one to another.
Yes,
You can't
yes.
have
Yeah, so if you
the
want to add a new line with this constraint, you're gonna have to change or the SSN or the name alongside the time.
yeah, yeah.
Cool.
And these three holes would be equal this,
And
right?
also, like you have to upgrade all the previous records to keep them with a closed bound, right, on the to signal that they ended, right, at that
That's
point.
related to the packets concept from CJ.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about I think it's a whole chapter
I had the
for
book.
packing and unpacking and why
Yeah,
this
the
is
problem
important.
with talking about that guy with Magetta is that he just says, I have the book, and then bah, on the table. It's just funny. But I don't know if I got what Magetta said. Magetta said that you need to backtrack and fix the times. What is that what he said? Here's the book.
I have it here.
Show it again,
Uh,
Magetta. Jean didn't see it.
okay. Ah, it's heavy.
Nice.
He has the book, man.
Yes. But basically, like, imagine like this: you have that's storing things you know, right, on time.
Yes.
So at some point that stop that's and you should just store predicates that are true, right? So you just
Yes.
store things that are valid, right? But those things they are not invalid; they just were valid between an interval, right?
Yes.
If you keep an open interval, that means that well they are true, but they are not bound to the time
Oh, you're
that
gonna have to
the
backtrack on
transaction.
those.
So you gotta backtrack and close them
Yeah.
because
That's
that's true from this to
sucks.
this exactly. You see?
That that's part of the work that this library do. It
Okay, okay. So you're saving your storage. Congrats.
not this, yeah, the storage, I
And the
guess.
seeking and the seek time. And the seek time as well by consequence. You don't have to do a query that's going to take more time because you're going to have to pass through all these like useless piece that is only changing the time.
Yeah.
So that's great. You're doing great.
So this this constraint is saying this: don't let the user insert roles that have some uh, another role that matches this constraint, which is
4 pages just to talk about the same thing.
SSN with equals. And now it's not the primary key only, right? This is for all fields except system period. That's why I'm talking about this. And then instead of overlapping, I'm checking for adjacency, which means if two time ranges are uh, adjacent one to
Mhm.
another. And
Okay, okay. Yeah, that makes
if
sense.
everything is equal and the valid period is adjacent, it's an invalid row. You
Yeah,
can't
you
Yes,
use
cannot
that.
have
yes.
a gap between the same ontological primary key, right, which is the SSN in this case. So what actually makes that thing like that thing, right? So
Yes.
you cannot have a gap between that and the time, otherwise you have some discontinuity on
Yeah,
your.
actually, that's a
Oh,
good question.
no,
Are
you
we
can.
checking for
You can.
Yeah, you can,
discontinuity?
but I
You
mean, you
can.
have a gap to audit, right? That's my point.
Let's say this is the employee table, and the valid time is used to track when the employee is working for you. You can hire him,
Mm.
then this is the start of a valid time. You fire him, and this is the end. But you can rehire him, he hire him. No,
Yeah, you can
the,
hire him
Oh,
again
right,
in the
right.
future.
For him
That's fine.
again.
It, de- yeah,
yeah,
but that
and
depends on the business rule, right? I think you don't do that with system time because here's the thing: you're just doing that with valid time, right?
yeah,
System time is just an update on the thing, but it's also a period, right? On
yeah.
system time, that should never happen, right?
Yeah,
But on
yeah.
valid
System
time.
time, it is what it is.
Hmm.
No constraints here. It is what it is. No,
Yeah, if you're gonna use a trigger to control that, it is what it is, and it is. That's about it.
yeah.
Yeah, but that makes
And
sense. I didn't think of that.
and then what you need more is the place to store this history with regarding to the system periods. And I decided to do like this. You create a X history schema, let's say in my case bitemporal and underline with this suffix, and you just copy the table structure and like this, and that's your history table.
Yep.
And this the same thing here to payslip, the same premise with the overlapping, adjacency, and history table, and a little bit of um, this is the sad part. Uh, uh, que fazer?
I mean,
I,
these Java pop-ups. I mean,
the sad part, right? Uh, this is not native to Postgres. This ISA. So I have to keep track of foreign keys myself.
Oh wow.
I can't have foreign keys, which is sad. Really, really.
Wow, that's a major downside of this. Okay.
Right now it is. Yeah,
Wow, man, that's a lot. That's a lot of work.
yeah. That's up to work. And the idea is just like what is the table, what's the primary key, the names of the fields, right? Um, and this is used to validate stuff later.
I see.
And this third script I won't go over too. It's this is what the code you would need to to do the inserts, updates, and this kind of stuff.
Oh, without the foreign keys, you have to re-implement all of that yourself again?
Yeah, there's some stuff that you
Wow.
need to do by hand, let's say. And my idea, which is not complete yet, is that this code here is generated for you. It's not. There is already some libraries that have a generic procedure that you say what is the table and what's the data you want to do something with.
Wait,
And
is
and
this
and
the complete to incomplete version of SQL?
yeah, yeah,
that's a
that's
PL SQL.
PL
uh,
SQL, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I did that for an entire year. So yeah,
I,
that
I
brings
feel
some
sorry
memory.
for you.
I'm sorry for you. especially if it was on.
Uh, it was not that bad because, well, they wanted to do everything in SQL at the time, so I guess this is the way. And it
You can
saved
write
me
like
some JavaScript, so I'm fine with that as well.
Oh,
you can
that's
write
great.
Perl inside of it as well.
Yeah, but
Um, so
wow.
what I was talking, right? There is some approach already done that is you have a single insert function, let's say, with bitemporal capabilities, and it's fully generic. You have you pass the table name and it does a lot of runtime shit. And my approach is the opposite. I don't want runtime shit. I mean, there is some runtime shit, but it's not exploring the catalog and this stuff. It's that's the part that make it go a lot slower. Uh, let's say,
You mean like you would have to consult the schema, right, for
yeah,
changes?
for
Probably
every
pick the WAL file.
account. And my approach is you do this when you generate the code, and the generated code is specific for the table, so it knows the fields,
Oh,
know the
okay. So instead of making it generic and depending on runtime, you want to actually do, you want to compile PL SQL yourself.
yeah.
Uh,
I
Right,
will
he
not
wants to
compile
generate.
it. I will generate let's say a handmade function for that table.
yeah, but you're gonna
We
swap the name of like your table placeholder with the table name that I want you to make for me.
Yeah, for instance, the payslip save.
Yeah, so you want
Uh,
to generate PLSQL.
yeah,
Okay, okay. That's a lot of effort to avoid runtime. Is that worth it?
I don't
Like
know,
Magenta said that you need to do a lookup on the schema, and I understand that's
No,
a
wait. That Oh wait, that's what he said, and that's one of the libraries that do right.
yes, yes.
The advantage is that on the cloud provider you can run it because it's not a
Ah,
C dependency. You see, like on AWS, for example, on RDS,
but
you can't just pick an arbitrary C file and like
yeah,
compile for your instance, right? You have to
but
contend with
but
what.
you can do without using C this.
Yes,
Even if you go generic, right? You
yes,
can still do it. It's
yeah, but with C it will be
a
uh,
lot faster.
a
Yeah,
lot faster. Yes.
wait. Can you repeat again, Magenta? I don't think I got it. So what's the advantage of avoiding the runtime approach?
So there are two types of runtime, right? The first runtime is you using C, and then you can use the Postgres internal functionality written in C. You can go to the query planner. You can do all sorts of crazy stuff there, right? Because you are in C,
Yeah.
and that's fast. The problem of doing a runtime with the catalog that Jean was saying is that you would have to basically query things on real time. You see, like
yeah.
dispatch a lot of SQL to run and get stuff. You see,
Yes, I understand that as
and
well.
then you generate the stuff, which is a lot slower than just running C.
Oh, okay. So he's peaking the slower, but the slower in terms
No,
of comparing
no.
to
What
C.
he's doing is not even that. What he's doing is generating code that is you don't need to do these lookups because it's already made for the table. You see?
Ah, okay. I see. I see. I
I'm
see. Okay, I
changing
see.
the lookup for the generate part. I'm pre-computing, let's
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, you are basically trusting that I'm giving you the right table name.
No, it's not even that. I'm trusting you that you did not change the table structure. Like you
No,
did not
that as
add.
well. You're also trusting that, but I'm saying with the lookups, you have to dispatch a bunch of like smaller packets of
Yeah,
queries to the server,
Yeah.
and
yeah,
I think that the server is going to complain if I ask for a non-existent table, right?
yeah,
But in
yeah,
your case, I'm going to give you the table name in your script. I'm going to press play, and the generated code may be for the wrong table.
I think it was more like you give the schema, and then it
Oh, you
speaks
give the entire
SQL.
schema.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yes,
You
you
give
give schema and then you produce a SQL and then you run the SQL.
Oh, I thought you would provide the schema and the table that you wanted. So you only
no,
provide the schema and it does the rest by itself.
the unit of work is irrelevant here. I mean,
I
it
know, I
has
understand now. I understand.
yeah,
Okay, okay, I see the trade-offs.
and this is the code that would be generated. So
Yes.
at the compile time, let's call it compile, it would check, what are the fields from this table? So SSN, gross, and valid period. So it creates a function with these three input arguments, copying the type from the table. And then there is some sort of template to this madness, and it would apply this template for the table, right?
Okay, I see.
And this is all the checking I came up with to save a row, keeping a valid state. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of shit going on here, and more stuff outside here too, like some initially deferred constraints, which are crazy.
I see.
So here's the running example. For this this instance of the Bitemporal, I I am using a virtual system time. So I'm not using the clock, the wall clock or something. I am using a table to store some integer that is the representation of time. Okay,
Yep.
so I have set the time to -10, and this is when the employee starts uh, working here, for instance. So you call the save employee, the SSN, the name, and the valid period for him, which in this case is an open range, because I don't know when he's not more an employee.
Yes.
So I don't know when he starts. Uh, so just so you see, it's here, and the system period is also recorded here. Then okay, so the first month, right? This minus -10. We generate the payslip for him. The same stuff. I could select here. And okay, very simple, right?
Yep.
Uh, and then I'm advancing time for the first period right now. That's virtual system time. And then we are generating his payslip for that time, which means I'm selecting for that user at that valid time. And it's what we expect, right? Because it says here that it's from -10 to unbounded. It's not
Yes.
defined. Um, then we advance again the time. Now it's the period 2, and we generate the payslip for the second time. And it's wrong. It's the 1,000 stuff. Now we advance the time again because some sort of uh, time has passed, uh, until the employee saw it was wrong, right?
Sure.
That's the idea here. And then uh, we know it was supposed to be 2000 from the time 2 onwards. And again, we don't know until when. So we save the new information. And what is the table right now look like? This one. So we have here from -10 until 1. Remember, this is excluding 2.
Yes.
Uh, it's 1,000. And from 2 and onwards, it's 2,000. This is the table right now. And then we can select again the, see where it is. Select again at 2, and we know, no, we get the right answer. So the first two questions that we need to answer is basically just give the table. It's already here. And we could ask why the two transfers. And in this case, I could do this, which is the, let's say, main table, right? The current stuff, plus the history of that relation. We do the union, and I look at the system time too. And we know now that the gross pay at that time we believed it was 1,000, but it was wrong.
Ah. Okay, so you actually can query your previous wrong understanding.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then at 3, I believe we have the right. So now at the time 3, we know that at the valid time 2, it was supposed to be 2,000.
Okay. Okay, I like it.
And that's it that I have planned,
1 hour and 10 minutes.
I
I'm
think.
very sad that I don't
Oh,
think we have the time to answer the question of event sourcing. Ha 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 ha
Oh, why not?
ha.
Don't have time to answer it.
Okay, so I think that the question that this like that begs the question is, couldn't you do the same with some sort of event modeling? Because the whole deal that they complain about is that saving time information in relational models are this is expensive. Blah 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 blah
I
blah.
think it's not even that, by the way.
Yeah, but I think they say that. I'm pretty
Yeah,
certain they say that.
they do.
I
Yes.
have a I have a take on that, and my take is you're doing it backwards. You shouldn't do event sourcing and derive the database from that. You should put your events in the database to begin with, and if you need the event log, it's right there. And you can do that in a bitemporal database, no problem.
Yeah, but I think that if you ask Mageta if people are using event sourcing as a database, I think Mageta will say yes.
The point is, I think the principles, Marins was spot on saying the principles are swapped, right? The assumption here is that your entire business and the data, they're, let's go beyond. The purpose of the DBMS in this case is to store constraints, right?
Yeah.
And time is one business constraint. So the DBMS should also handle time along with other constraints. Uh, Event sourcing people, they flip the things and then they go from designing micro. I wouldn't even say micro, but you can. That's implementation detail. But the implementation granular change in your code that each one of them can be tracked individually. So each one of them have a time attached, and then you just have one list of things that happened, right, for each thing isolatedly,
Yes.
right? That's the idea. So it's just flipping the both ideas.
Wait, I don't know if I got where the thing's being flipped. Can you repeat that part?
So the idea is that you should not express constraints in a database. That's the first thing, right? So that's evil. You should not do that.
Are you
And
saying
then,
that or are they saying that?
well, every event sourcing person I read and I talk to, and I do this daily, say this. That
Oh, okay. So you should not store constraints.
no. The point is that the idea of the schema of the constraint. Schema is a type of constraint, right?
Yeah.
The idea of the constraints, they should go in the code, which is the business layer, and the data store. That's the terminology they use. It's not even database, it's data store. It's just a bucket that you put the stuff you want to read to
I,
make use out of on
in
the
Yeah.
some of the stuff that I saw, the, some guy even said, it could be a JSON. The data store.
Yeah,
yeah.
but
For example, MessageDB, which is what I use, which is based around Postgres, right? It just stores a table called messages that has the type of the event, so a tag like telling what's the name of it, the optional data, which is a nullable column with the JSON, um, a timestamp that records the time the thing happened, and there's some other metadata like the user and some other this and the string name. The string name is important because that's keeping track of the entity that that thing is, because you have a lot of events sparse on the same table, right? That in this case, so that's one case. You have different implementations, but roughly that's the idea, I would say.
okay. No, but
And
now I
then
think I got
the
the where
entire
the
like
thing's being
idea of the
flipped.
constraints is that they don't go in the event store. That's the point. Like
Yeah,
they
yeah,
go
I
in the
think I understand
decision
now.
layer for your code.
Yeah, they prefer
Feature.
moving the checking to the application layer, right? They prefer
Yes.
going to the actual code. Like they put the thing in another the programming language that you're writing the application. They prefer to do the validation there instead of allowing the RD the BMS doing the validation
Yeah,
itself.
and then there's this portion of the code that is called the decisioneer that takes care of committing the events to the database transactionally using optimistic concurrency. And this thing is the one that interfaces with the database to get the current state of the world, take a decision, and emit the list of events that are gonna add to this state of the world. You see?
Hmm.
And then you should what does that enter with all the design of like CQRS and the idea of decoupling everything? You have a fold, which is a projection side, which is the read model that's totally detached from this. That is a thing that you just recompose from the very beginning to the end, this list of events that you emitted on time.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
see?
yeah. I think
So
you
you would
talk we
just
talked
like
about that, but
reduce the
mm.
state based on that.
Jean, you want to say something?
Yeah. My view about this, and keep in mind that I never implemented event sourcing, and I'm complete newbie in this stuff. Feature-wise, I don't think there is much more between event sourcing and a bitemporal table.
I see
Uh,
one difference, but
I know one thing that bitemporal will not allow you to do, which is run the process like from day one or from the
Yeah, yeah,
last.
yeah. They want to be able to backtrack from the beginning to do
Yeah,
replay.
migrations.
that's one thing that you can't do, strictly speaking, just
Oh,
because you're bitemporal.
you're saying like a replay, right?
Yes, a
The
replay from
replay,
from
No, you
scratch.
can.
yeah,
You,
but
it
you
just needs
can
some work. Yeah,
you
it's not
can
like
do a little bit of work to make replayable
Yeah,
process with
yeah.
bitemporal
yeah.
when it's needed.
Mm-hmm.
When it's needed, not
Yeah, but
you don't
my,
do
my
just
point is this is not really the problem of bitemporality, right? You
Yeah.
could have like triggers that capture the events coming to the database,
Yeah.
and then that you store in somewhere, and then you can.
You're gonna have to convince somebody that that redundancy is worth it. You're gonna have to convince somebody. But aside from that,
But that
Uh,
is my point. I mean, why do you need to reproduce everything? Why do you
oh,
need
because you want to know
knowing the
when things go into shit. That's why.
no, but knowing the state at
Oh,
any
yeah.
time is enough.
No, but you solve that problem as well with
Well,
bitemporality.
if you have the history
That's
of
my point.
change,
You,
like
you,
here's the
you
point: if you have the history of change and you know already what you want to search, you don't need to replay to just know.
No,
You see?
if
yeah,
you have bitemporality, I agree. But I don't think
Yeah.
if you don't have it, if you have just like a normal relational model without time at all, which is a
No,
very common
then
thing, I
yes,
think.
it's not tracking time. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then you don't have
or
any
poorly,
you're not gonna know when things went to shit.
yeah, or
Mhm.
poorly implemented.
Yeah, poorly
Yes,
implemented, which is
yeah.
usually a bonus that comes with that as well.
But that's the thing. Let's say y- both are complex. It's not simple to do. Neither of the
Yeah,
event
yeah, I
sourcing
think
or
that's
the
fair.
temporal stuff.
I I have
But I firmly believe, doing bitemporal is simpler from the two.
I agree. And there's one thing that I think quite funny. Uh, you cannot express set constraints in event sourcing.
What
It's
do you
not
mean?
made for that. Like for
Mm,
example,
Uh,
a
go.
set constraint is like an invariant for the whole. Think of an entity, right? You're just storing an entity, one entity in your event store.
Yes.
You can store different strings, that's fine. But what I'm saying is on the scope of a string, you just store one kind of entity, right? You just store events that modify this state.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what your state is, it could be like multiple things, but it's one state, right? Regardless. So I'm just making this distinction because people might watch this and might like, oh no, this guy doesn't know that he can. Yeah, you can. You can store multiple things, but they are different entities. But the point is, uh, the a set constraint in this case would be something like I'm trying to not give an example that I see daily. Uh,
Wait, is a
Imagine
set
you have
constraint a constraint on all of the rows
of the table.
of the
Yes.
table?
Because you don't know what are the rows of the table. So you would have to go directly to the event store and query it. You
I
see?
think,
yeah,
yeah, I think we have plans on implementing that actually.
So that's the point. Like you don't have the knowledge of it's isolated, right? It's fully isolated. So what you would have to do is have a another system downstream from the read model uh, that you use the read model to produce a state server that you have the knowledge that you want to take a decision
Yes.
and then roll back. You
Yes,
see?
yes, yes,
So
yes.
you
That
could
sounds
have a
complicated.
broker, a queue, whatever, just to have that knowledge. You
Okay,
see?
so Jean, did you get what he said? I can re-explain again.
more or less. Can you
Okay, so
try?
what he said is, if you don't have this scoping ability of having an invariant across a set of entities,
Let me make it concrete,
you're gonna
just to
have
give an
to have
example.
another place that's gonna save the state of everything that it was already there checked, and you're
Yes.
gonna have to pinpoint this guy from the real deal and ask to this guy, can I include this guy? Is this breaking an invariant, set invariant? And if the other guy says you can't, you're gonna have to. If you already committed, you're gonna have to backtrack. If you
Yeah,
didn't
Yeah,
commit
if you
yet,
yeah.
you're gonna have to
That's a
return the answer.
decision, right? So you
Yes,
don't commit.
yes,
So
yes. You're gonna have to return this output to the guy attempting to do the insert, and the guy's gonna say, okay, I'm not gonna do the insert now.
it would be in a queue or
Yeah,
something,
it could
like
be
a
a queue and
waiting,
stuff
right?
like that. So you don't have any of these issues if you have the set invariant. So
And that's a
that's
simple thing. So
it.
yeah, like that kind of thing that burns me.
Marin, you want to
Uh,
say something?
like I was just going to give you an example. Like think of this, and that's pretty common, right? If you want to express that on a database, or that they have the necessity to do that to begin with. That's not like I want to express that. For example, imagine you have uh, payslips, right? That Jean was saying. imagine you should say, okay, like no employee should go beyond should have a payment that goes beyond the floor, the roof of the company stipulated budget, right? So uh, like you would have to basically have a global state that you are aware of uh,
The budget available.
what is the budget available, so you can discount, right? That's
Yeah.
maybe a not very good example, but that's something you could probably circumvent that with something ugly, but the idea is there. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I can't give an example I see at work, so that's why.
Okay, that's fine. Marin, you want to say something? I think you want.
Yeah, the thing about simplicity, like this is pretty common in people who work with closure, probably because Rich Hickey talks a lot about it, about the notion of like keeping separate concepts separate. That's basically where he comes from when he talks about simplicity. I don't think there's enough being said about identifying that, oh, these two things are actually one thing. Like, we shouldn't actually separate that because logically they're actually the same. I think that's kind of what happens to make people think that event sourcing is a good idea. Like,
Oh, I think I know what
Uh,
you mean. You're saying that the entities that we manipulate in the code are actually the same entities that we should have persisted, hence moving the constraints to the application layer. Is that what you're saying?
uh,
I
no, what I'm
understood it
trying to
differently.
Yeah,
No,
and
go on.
what I'm trying to say is like the fundamental entity that that you care about
Yeah.
is your data.
Yes.
Like the events are kind of incidental, right?
Yes.
And the
Yeah.
if you want to have a global constraint, you need the data, not the events. So it should be together with the data,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yes.
suggests that because certain events may rely on those constraints to decide whether or not they are actually valid events, this
Yeah.
means that actually the events depend on the data. So why not just put the events in the database with the data that they depend on?
And
Like,
yeah,
Oh,
So
okay, I see.
there is one thing, by the way, now that you mention, there's one thing called event carried state transfer. That a event carries a state of the world as the dispatcher sees it. So, like whoever is making the call emits that event, and then along with that event, it dispatches the knowledge that it knows of the current state, right? And that helps you to decide what if that event is valid or not. It's a command. The problem is that an event before it is committed, it's not really an event, right? That's a command, like that's a desire to add this thing, right? It
Yes.
only becomes an event after it is on the event store, but only has power for editing the state. Let's put it out.
that,
Yeah.
that's some crazy stuff, man.
That's
What
some crazy stuff.
I mean, just just think about it. You do all this shit to handle events, and as Marinho said, y- what you care is not the event itself, is the
Yeah.
data, the
Mhm.
current state at some time.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, a- and the only thing I can see that Bitemporal won't suffice is the replayability by default, let's say. And then you make everything replayable in your system because you might want to replace some tiny bit of the
Which I
system.
And
never
we
did in a whole year.
yeah, and
Yeah,
we need to we need to talk about the fold because Magetta said that sometimes you actually need the fold of all of the events. What if you
yeah,
have like 5 million events in a year?
yeah.
I mean,
That's
the
when
data,
you
like the event store
snapshot and
caches, right? That's not
yeah.
really a big deal because the event store will cache the thing for you.
Oh,
But
okay, so
it
at
will
least they
fold.
cache some of the fold.
Yes, but if you don't have that, it will
You need to
fold from
cache.
the 5 million.
It's not that oh yeah they can cache. No, you need to cache. You need. Otherwise, you can do shit. Every request will be like 10,000 years. You need to replay
Yeah, okay,
everything.
okay. Yeah, that's great. I'm gonna stop the recording
yeah.
now.